Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. We're just going to give it a few more minutes. We're waiting for a couple minutes. Looks like we got a couple more people jump on. I think we're all set to get started whenever you're ready.
Should I get started then, Bailey?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our FastTRAC workshop today. We appreciate your time. We know you've got, it's a busy time right now, so we really appreciate you taking hopefully 90 minutes of your day. We're going to focus today on congestion monitoring and advanced analytics. And I believe we've got close to somewhere between 30 to 45 attendees, or no, we had 45 registrants from current partners of ours, potential partners of ours, as well as some end users. So, and people from sales and as well as IT and even some C-level folks. So thanks again for joining. To give you a bit of well, first of all, I just want to say, and by the way, my name is Mitch Wade. I handle sales for the western part of the, I have a team that manages the western US. Ed Bender represents the East and has this team on the East Coast, and hopefully you've worked with Ed as well. The goal today is really to hopefully provide you with value-added information, and if you've attended a session before, obviously continuation of our FastTRAC series here on back to school, back to campus, back to the office, and the journey that we've been gone down for the last few months. Our goal here today is to leave you with obviously, hopefully information, entertainment, and hopefully the desire to not just continue with the next FastTRAC, but to be part of our specialty channel that we're developing. Sam Fidala, who'll be leading this presentation today, is spearheading that for us, and obviously to have a deeper dive discovery session with us afterwards. Just to give you a bit of a background of how we got here, back in May, June, we, Securematics, we have our headquarters is in Carlsbad, California. We've got 30 people that are based there, sales, marketing, order management, credit, and it's 2 offices back to back. It's basically an SMB type of an environment. We wanted to look at how we were going to bring our employees back to the office safely. This involved Brian Vincic, our general manager, basically leading this and wanting to make sure that obviously we did things the right way. It involved Susan Martell, who's our head of HR, to make sure we were compliant with what we were doing. It involved Keegan Wade was on this call as a solution engineer, Anan Ha, also our solution engineer, Bill Kine from Juniper MIST, to make sure we were going to configure the access points and the BLE devices correctly in order to achieve the goals we wanted to. And then it became a bit of a bigger project because it involved kiosk, it involved temperature screening kiosk, facial detection kiosk. In other words, ways that people could enter the building and we wouldn't have to monitor them when they walked in. Having that information that's available on mobile devices, so we can then make sure that when people came in, they were within the threshold of the temperatures we wanted them to be. It involved surveys to make sure before they came in they answered the surveys. It basically involved developing an end-to-end solution that we realized that there was disparate technologies out there that really we didn't see anybody really bringing together. So we think we've at least tried to do that. We will, this is a third session of this. We've gone through the kiosk part of it. We've gone through the initial first two steps of this, and now we're at the point of going through the analytics. And I think that the thing I just want to say before I turn this over to Sam is that, we very much, this journey has gone on now for about 6 months. Again, we're looking to share our own experience, our own learnings, and see how you can hopefully leverage that and maybe develop solutions for the marketplace, for education, for enterprise, and for the various verticals that I think you guys all sell into. So without further ado, Sam, please take it over.
Thanks, Mitch. So again, I wanted to echo Mitch's comment. Thanks for everybody taking some time out of your day today to join us. And as you can see on the agenda, we're just going to do a quick recap of session 1, which was the first mile discussion, session 2, which we're calling the on-premise discussion, and then we'll dive in today to focus on Juniper Premium Analytics with the whole panel. So if you could go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so this particular slide here, the very first question we get, since our solution involves health temperature sensing kiosks, BLE sensors, lanyards, wireless access points, etc. Well, what happens after COVID-19 has come and gone? So we just kind of wanted to just put some ideas just up front before we dive into all of the specifics. That what we've done is we've purposely picked best of breed solutions. And for an example, for the back end, the wireless access points and BLE sensors, we've partnered with Juniper. And this year, Juniper won the Gartner Magic Quadrant for wired and wireless LAN access infrastructure. Huge win all the way upward top right corner. If you follow Gartner, then you know what that's quite an achievement. And then finally, the middle topic there, we've got digital transformation. So that's been something that's been going on for a number of years for many companies, many organizations. And what we're showing here, we're really not only solving the COVID-19 issue, but we're creating an infrastructure that can take you to that next level of digital transformation. So, creating operational simplicity, as you see, programmability, and end user engagement through location-based services. So we can add all kinds of additional things on. As you can see, additional technology uses, asset tracking, user engagement, wayfinding, security, and timekeeping. So there's just a whole lot of things we can do here. And Bill, I'm going to let you jump in for a second. Would you want to add anything else to, why this is an important technology beyond COVID-19?
Well, yeah, what we want to show you today is that we can use an existing infrastructure in an organization to add a lot of value to protect the employees, the guests, the customers. We don't want to advocate building something just for COVID-19, although I think that probably is justifiable in some cases financially as well. But what we want to do is we want to talk to you guys about installing an infrastructure that'll grow and that'll protect your investment in the future, pandemic or non-pandemic. And with that, we're going to give you best of breed, we're going to give you simplified management, and we're going to give you clear reporting as well, all of which can also be adapted for the current challenges today.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So now for the fun part, really, now that we've said what you can do after COVID-19, let's dive into today. So as Mitch had mentioned, we've been on this journey. And the first part of the journey is, from your home or, outside your organization to the front door. And then once you pass the front door, that, then we've got the on-premise piece. And, throughout this entire journey, we have to worry or at least consider regulatory compliance, reporting, CDC guidelines, HIPAA, privacy data, et cetera. So that's what we mean by the whole journey. And throughout that journey, there's various technologies that we've, come up with and vetted and put into place to basically keep folks safe. So go ahead and move to the next slide, please. And here's just a snapshot of the big picture. So what we mean by that is at home, there's technologies that you can utilize to, get a questionnaire application on your cell phone, for example, before you leave the house. This can be as advanced as, tying back into your organization, or it can just simply be, a self-help, list, so to speak, on your application on your phone. But then when you show up to the school, for example, in this example, you've already, maybe your child's temperature's been taken, you've answered various COVID-related questions, and you get a clean bill of health. Now, once you're at the front door, what we've recommended is a temperature sensing kiosk. This takes your temperature. It does not store a picture, so it's really just vectors on somebody's face. Takes your temperature, and again, it can actually control access to the door, or it can actually give you the ability to print a green badge on your cell phone, for example. So, and now you can prove, hey, pass the temperature check, I'm going to come on in. And then finally, when you're inside, then we can leverage technology to basically do proximity checking and congestion monitoring. So that's just kind of a pictorial example of this. And next slide. So here's just kind of a snapshot from, there's really two parts to this whole, COVID response. The first part is technology solutions, which we're talking about today. And there's a second component as well, which is non-technology solutions. And that could be, we'll go into it a little bit later at the end of the presentation. But, simple things, masks, sanitizer, signs, etc. But again, today, here's kind of the journey. As you can see, item number one, MIST AI-driven wired assurance platform. We've just talked about the kiosk or the temperature screening and with facial detection. Contact.io is actually a BLE or beacon and lanyard device. And then again, today we're going to do a deep dive on Juniper Premium Analytics. And go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay, and we just wanted to show this really is a modular solution in that you can do as much as you want or as little as you need to based on your organization's requirements and what you're shooting for. So as you can see, just a good solution might just be the facial recognition and temperature sensing kiosk. You're just controlling folks entering this facility, and you're doing a temperature check, and you're basically validating that they are who they are and tracking that if you so choose. A better solution might be that tied into a kiosk with a lanyard, wristband, ID card, and other BLE sensors. And then as you can see, our recommendation for the best is all of those things. Now you have a back-end premium analytics platform that we're going to discuss today, where you can tie in many data feeds from multiple IoT devices, you can log, and then you can report all of that back to an HR system. And then next slide, please. So I'm just kind of going through these. Here's just an example of some of the health screening kiosks. And we've already covered these, as I mentioned, in another session. So we're not going to spend a bunch of time here. I just wanted to give you an idea. If for those of you who have not seen a temperature sensing kiosk, here are some examples of what they look like. And, they're, pretty compact, nice, easy to use devices. So if you want more information on that, feel free to ask. So next slide, please. And again, here's an example of some BLE lanyards and things that you can use on a person for basically tracking the contact tracing or the proximity tracing piece of this solution. And again, we're going to do another session later on to dive into all of these various types of technologies, but this was basically covered in section 2. So again, just wanted to give you an idea and a picture of what these things look like. And then we're going to keep on going. So next slide. Okay, so here's really why we're here today. We're here to dive in and dig into Juniper MIST Premium Analytics. And we thought the best way to do that would just start with a live demo. And so we're going to turn this over to Keegan, and he's going to give us a live demo. And everybody, this is really meant to be interactive. So if you have any questions or comments that please feel free to put it in the chat, and Bailey will read that out to us, and we'll try to answer your questions to the best of our ability. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Keegan and Bill.
Hello, Bailey. Do you mind giving the presentation to the other Keegan Wade? Sorry.
Sure. You're actually going to have to, you're the presenter. I know you're logged on twice, so you're going to have to do it.
No, I don't think I'm getting it on my laptop. I'm sorry. I'm trying to flip this over to my desktop. I'm getting the sharing my screen on my laptop, but I like it on my desktop.
Okay.
Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. Okay.
There we go.
What about now?
That looks good.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
So does this look okay? I think I may need to zoom in a little bit.
Yep.
Looks good, Keeks.
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. So once you're logged into your Juniper MIST web panel, I like to just recap going over the how we set up zones. So we went over to location, live view. We went to our map. This is our office, and here we can here we can see our office and how it's divided into different zones. So our zones are categorized by lobby, lounge, bottom office, hallway. Obviously, you can divide your floor plan into any way you best see fit. But with these zones, it allows us to set occupancy rates or occupancy numbers for each zone, and will allow us to better track assets and give us better reports, which I'll show you in a second. We also have assets, as you can see. We have some assets floating around. Unfortunately, they're not in the most ideal spots right now. I think they've been running low on power, so they're a little off. But as you can see, we have a bunch of assets or people. And from here, I'm going to head over to our analytics, occupancy analytics, and here we can have a better display of our map. So here you can see I've set the occupancy for the lobby to 6. We currently have 2 occupants in it, so it's showing green that we're good. However, lobby is at 100% occupancy, and this is a great page for displaying this information. Next, I'm going to head over to Premium Analytics. And from here, I'm going to go to our proximity tracing and occupancy page. And from this window, we're displayed with lots of information. So for example, where most of our users are spending their time, our areas visited, so 5, which is the amount of zones we have currently, contact and proximity. We also have user journey and dwell insights. So we can figure out from this display how many people are in a particular zone at a particular time. From here, we have user journey per zone detail, so we can find out like how when someone's kind of entering into a zone and when they're leaving. So you can see our enter local time, exit local time, from which zone, and then which device they are. Next, we have proximity tracing. So this is how many for each lanyard or each asset, how often they're signaling to the BT devices. And we have proximity tracing by area visited. So this is usually done on a 15-minute interval. And so for each of our zones, it's picking up how many devices are in that zone and who's in that zone. And this is a great section for looking back to see which individual would be in that zone at a particular time if you wanted to trace back where people are at a particular time frame. And then finally, we have our compliance based on capacity utilization zone. So we can see back, I think these are done generally on a 15-minute interval as well, but you can see our compliancy percentage based on zones. And so as you can see, our bottom office is looking good, our hallway has been relatively good, our lobby has been doing well, but there's been a lot of people spending time in the lounge. So as you can see, we have a 250% occupancy limit hit at on the 26th at 2:15. So this is a great area for seeing where your compliances are being used. So finally, if you want these to be generated, if you want them to be sent out, let's say on a daily or weekly basis, we can, well, you can just download the entire file as a PDF if you'd like, or you can schedule it. And when you schedule it, you know, you set it to weekly, monthly, hourly rates if you'd like. And yeah.
And you could set real-time alarms with that too, I would add.
Yes. So, Bill, are you talking about the email notifications or the? Just
a notification for you know, if the lunchroom is overcrowded or if a lab has too many people in it for the based upon the school's COVID rules, you can also get real-time alarms with that.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best features of Premium Analytics, and I'm going to quickly show that. But lastly,
sorry, I jumped ahead of you there.
No,
my apologies.
That's perfectly fine. Last, we have engagement analytics, and I'm not going to go too much into this because we are going to cover it in a future presentation. But one presentation or chart that I thought was really interesting was the most frequency moves by between zones. So you can actually see where people are moving between each zone. So here we have people moving from the lounge to the lobby or to the hallway, and you can kind of see the most frequent paths that people are taking. So finally, getting to Bill's point here, if we go to organization, we go to our site configuration, we go to whichever site that you want to configure this for, you can head down to occupancy, and you can set the parameters for when you want an email notification based on an compliancy or occupancy threshold being hit. So if that threshold is hit or gone over, we can send out an email to the administration to get this warning. And I do have an email that was generated for us. So for example, this might be better to do this. So here I got an email earlier for a violation being hit, that our lounge, which we've seen before, was constantly going over threshold, where we had more occupants than the limit of 2, and so we got a violation for that, and we also as well got a cleared notification for when that came up. Sorry. So besides that, I think that covers the live demo of Premium Analytics.
Keegan, I was
we did
curious.
have one question.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Sam. The zones are measured by wireless APs. Forgive me if I missed that part.
They are completely designed on the floor mat, so it's completely how you'd orient your floor map. But it's in order to get better location data or more better location information based on your assets, you should set up your Bluetooth devices or APs in a particular way that gives best coverage for your floor map. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it's actually, if I could add just a little to that. So every AP that Juniper produces with the Juniper MIST APs have a built-in Bluetooth array. So you typically don't need those hockey pucks that you stick on the wall for Bluetooth sensors. Instead, we virtualized all of that. So if you have a Wi-Fi system in your school or your enterprise, we may suggest that you change locations or optimize a little bit, but for the most part, you already have the capability to draw zones. Zones are just an abstract construct. So if you decide to build a zone for the lunch area, it's wherever you lay it out, and then we can make virtual beacons to detect activity in that zone. Not sure if that confused things further or helped.
So I had a question, Keegan. So when you were setting this up, can you just talk through that just a little bit? So, you had to put the hardware together, and then I see that you're using this MIST portal, which, does this interact with Marvis? And then, just can you kind of walk through just a little bit about how that process happened, how you got to the point where we can use Premium Analytics now to what you're showing us on the screen?
Well, we actually used a we sent in our floor map to to Juniper MIST, who generated a nice floor map of where our Bluetooth devices should be placed. So based off the recommendations of that, we were able to accurately place our Bluetooth devices in our office to get best coverage. I think your next point was Marvis. I haven't used Marvis too much with in relation to asset tracking, but you can definitely use Marvis in order to probably easily grab information that you're wishing that you're looking for in kind of and using it in like layman's terms. So I don't know if Bill wants to touch on Marvis at all, but and sorry, there was one last thing, Sam, or was that it?
Oh no, I was just kind of trying to understand how you got to the point. So I understand that you take your floor plan and you can send it, and Juniper uses Ekahau to basically incorporate that floor plan, and then then we got to the point where you created your zones and to what we're seeing on on the image here. I was just kind of wanting you to walk me through that process.
In other words, I think the question is, how tough is all this, and do you have to be a rocket scientist?
Exactly. That's what I'm after.
And I'm deferring to Keegan on that, since you set all this up yourself. I too would love to hear your feedback on it.
As far as the, as far as the physical setup, it was once we knew the floor plan and where the devices were, it was a fairly easy installation. We were actually able to daisy chain a few of the Bluetooth devices, which made the installation a lot easier. And once we've connected it to a switch, which had internet access, the MIST the MIST system easily picked up those devices once we added them to our account, and from there it was as easy as dragging our BT devices or AP devices onto the map, and simply setting them to where they are accurately portrayed on our floor map.
Okay, and let me do a little show and tell here, and just show you guys our very complex, sophisticated way of adding APs or switches to a network. We use just a basic cell phone. All you do is scan the QR code, and it's all automatically in the network. From there, you can customize if you want to virtualize the BLE locations, if you want to fine tune some of the RF, but for the most part, it's actually really simple to do.
Awesome.
And someone is asking if there's any other on-prem hardware or applications that you need, or can you do this with just the right APs and licensing?
From what we've seen today, just with Premium Analytics, with the MIST hardware, and then you definitely need some form of BLE device. So we use Contact.io. There's many other vendors that you can use for communicating with the Bluetooth sensors on the MIST system. But that is it. Bill, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, basically, no other servers or anything like that are really necessary. The BLE, the Bluetooth interfaces could track phones. That was our initial thought when we came out with this. And in fact, we do use Bluetooth and cell phones for perhaps for navigation through a conference center or a hotel or even an amusement park. But in this case, where we have a fairly small office, we noticed that a lot of people leave their phone at their desk while they wander off somewhere else. So what we do in Juniper is whenever anybody comes into the building, they're just given a little lanyard for their ID badge. That lanyard has a Bluetooth sensor in it. If they're a guest, we do make them sign a release. Our lawyers are involved somehow or other to reassure them that we're not really tracking them individually, but also getting their sign off on it. And that's about the extent of what it takes.
Yeah, so this is an example of a Contact.io Bluetooth lanyard. So pretty small. You can just hook your ID badge or whatever else you want on it. And you can also get, if you want to stick it to a wall or something, you can get these little sensors as well. So.
And I will add, you can, like Bill was stating, you can use your phones in this application. However, you need to have a MIST SDK app in order to engage the cell phone with the MIST system, which is a little bit more complicated, but allows you a more kind of robust system and allows for way tracking. So you can actually use your phone to find your way about the office or facility that you're in. You can have notifications. So if you pass into a certain area, it can notify you on anything you want. So there's a lot more that can happen in that system, and we will cover that in a future session.
Okay, thanks, Keegan.
Thanks. And one
then
last question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, Sam.
Go ahead, Billy. I'll go after you.
Someone, someone asked for the overlapping zones. Can a beacon transmit both zones, or does it only show one?
Yes, you can monitor 2 zones. That's not a problem. And in fact, the office space that you see there is fairly small and compact. We don't necessarily have a beacon in each and every zone, but we have coverage in each and every zone.
Okay.
So I guess that's saying that a beacon can be in more than one zone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a beacon or a BT or AP device can easily cover, I think, within, I want to say 15 meters in a radius around the device. So it can easily cover multiple zones that you've established.
Now we
And then,
Great.
oh, go ahead, Bill.
This is a tangential comment to all of this. When we first came out with the idea of proximity tracing, we were getting an accuracy at Juniper of about 3-ish meters. Actually, Securematics helped us really refine that, and I believe you guys are down to about the 1 meter range. Is that number correct?
Yeah, we've been able to get, unfortunately, that's my fault, but I set the contact IO devices to run at a really high refresh or chirp setting and transmit power. So unfortunately, they're not as accurate as we can see on the map right now. Their battery's been decaying a little bit, but yeah, when we first set it up on normal settings, before I went crazy messing around with the settings, we were able to see about 1 to 3. I would say 1 was probably 1 meter to either perfect accuracy up to maybe 3 meters in error.
Okay, good.
Nice. And then Keegan, what I was hoping, can you go back to the reports and just walk through kind of like just the various report options? I know we'll get into a little bit of this more, but I think folks, or at least seem to like to understand what type of reports are available.
Well, at least with Premium Analytics, the report is generated of what we currently see. So there isn't too much to modify besides time frame, and you can modify certain zones, I guess, within that and device sources, but for the most part, what I went over with Premium Analytics is what is generated on the report as far as types of charts.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the attendees, Bailey?
Yeah, one more just came in. How long do the batteries last, and how are they recharged?
So unfortunately, well, at least with Contact IO and from a lot of vendor assets, you cannot recharge them. They're kind of disposable assets. That being stated, they are fairly cheap devices, and at the proper transmit power and chirp setting, we were getting about probably like a year in lifespan, or a little over a year. Yeah.
And there are other vendors besides Contact IO for that too.
Sure.
And I suspect that as more people discover this technology as a way to reopen the schools or their businesses, there probably will be some more competitors jumping onto this.
Yeah, and just as a side comment, one nice thing about Contact IO is you can control them on an application on your phone as also, and it'll tell you the battery level on those various devices. So you don't have to guess or wait for one to fail. Okay. Did we want to move on to the next section if there's no more live demo questions out there?
Yep, I'll put the slides back up.
will close.
Okay. So Bill, would you like to, or Keegan, go ahead.
Yeah, and Bill's free to chime in. But this is kind of just going over a brief overview of what we've kind of saw. So here is the location live map that I showed just earlier. So here's a lot bigger facility in which we have a lot more clients and assets. So you have all these different icons. Some of the, I think, green boxes represent APs or BT devices. You have the Bluetooth symbol, which represents Bluetooth devices. The Bluetooth devices, or the Bluetooth symbols that are green, are assets. So they are, once we've set them as an asset, they're actually thrown into the MIST location engine for better proximity on where those devices are. And then there's also the profile picture icons that represent the like a client, like a Wi-Fi user. So with the live map, you can get a good understanding of where assets and devices are, and yeah.
So actually, this is a screenshot, so it's static.
Yeah.
In the real world, if you will, this would be a dynamic display where you could actually see people with lanyards walking back and forth or congregating in the coffee room or something like that.
Yep, and just to tie this back to the whole COVID response thing, this is really, kind of the meat and potatoes of the contact tracing and congestion monitoring. Just a pictorial view of everybody inside the space. So do you want to go to the next slide? Go ahead, guys, talk about this one.
So this is going back to our dwell insight. So this is just a nice graph based on zone by time frame. We can see where people are congregating during particular times in the day and at which zones that you've defined.
Yeah, and so one thing I just kind of wanted to comment, I don't know if you remember during the live demo, we had just not a ton of data, but this will actually, it shows you a more complex environment. So, and here's actual logging going on. You guys want to discuss this?
Here we have the based on zones, and at 15-minute intervals, we have which devices are in those zones. And I think for this example, we're using user engagement, or we're using like people's mobile phones or Wi-Fi devices for where those devices are in a particular zone. And so they are discovered by their by the model of the device. So it allows for discrete viewing of these devices and who they are, I guess, in this display.
And just one thing I wanted to add to this, if you look at the devices close by, you can see examples of all kinds of different devices, from iPhones to Android devices to an Apple Watch to a MacBook Air. So I just thought it was kind of interesting just how much information or how many devices can be seen, just purely from even just from an asset perspective, even beyond proximity tracing. Okay.
And Ed, you'll notice, just to belabor that one point Keegan made a moment, there are no names there. There's nothing saying John was in the kitchen at this hour with all these other people. Instead, we generate a report that your company or your HR department or your compliance team can then translate into names, and if needed, and we don't retain any of that.
Yep, good point. And again, just to continue, and we'll reiterate it again and again. That's a great point, Bill, that all of this data privacy and potential HIPAA privacy is a big deal. All of the data can be encrypted, sent back to an HR system if that's what your organization desires. So there's no real exposure from a people perspective. So that's definitely important. And then, okay, you want to go to the next slide?
And we have so some congestion alerting. So two images that we saw earlier. So we saw here we have on the left side, we have the how many visits you're getting in a particular zone, and how much how long people are staying there, and what the average time people are staying there. And in the bottom right, we're seeing that occupancy thresholds, so which are very handy at figuring out if you're meeting those occupancy compliance policies that you've implemented.
And what's really important about this technology is it gives you insight into corrective things that you might want to consider. Like if there's a traffic flow issue where a whole bunch of folks are congregating in a particular area, maybe you can redesign cubes or walkways or the way the desks are set up to basically kind of eliminate or reduce the congestion in a particular area. Or beyond that, if there's a particular area where everybody's congested, maybe you can increase your the cleaning timeline, so you can send folks in to basically sanitize the area more if that is important. So it's a great tool that gives you insight, and it's kind of interesting because in the past, we used to concern ourselves with just a conference room or even space utilization. So this is really kind of an extension of that, but to a much greater extent. So there's quite a bit of uses for this type of information. Bill, did you want to add on to the congestion piece?
I don't have anything to add. You guys are good.
Okay, just didn't want to leave you out there. Next slide, please.
And finally, we have the I guess my favorite view, which is the occupancy analytics occupancy tab. And here you can see, I think it's the same map that we saw a few slides ago, but it shows you where each zone or where each zone is divided at, and where thresholds are being met within that within your facility.
Okay. Yep, and then we see the one red zone there and some yellow. Okay. So this slide is depicting what the various sources or where we're getting information from these various sources. So you can see the Wi-Fi piece, the BLE tag, and the actual application is on the right side here, which is giving us all of these various features: the real-time live view, clients by zone, congestion, including the hot zones, proximity tracing, and the user journey. And then on the right side, there's passive BLE and unconnected Wi-Fi. Can you dig into these specific technologies a little deeper, Bill?
What you're really seeing here is that well, first of all, you're seeing the sources. So we can track things on different levels with Wi-Fi or with BLE. We can do it all passively, and the advantage here is that your users, above and beyond maybe that little lanyard around their neck, don't need to do anything differently. However, if you do want to have more interaction directly with the users. It is very easy to write an app to the phone or to their tablet, and then you can keep track of not just who's where, when, and why, but maybe the user could look ahead and say, what's the lunchroom crowd look like at this point in time? Should I go or should I wait? So you have a lot of flexibility there too, and you have a lot of tools to customize this.
Good point. Awesome. Yeah, and that's a great point as well. So premium analytics gives us this repository and powerful analytics tool. And there's a lot of folks, a lot of partners out there that are taking advantage of this and creating third-party applications to do some of those things that we talked about at the very beginning of the presentation around, well, okay, COVID-19 has come and gone. What else can you use this for? So that's where the wayfinding capabilities come from. That's where all of these additional things that you can use. Before the COVID-19, there was quite a bit of interest in this technology from a commercial perspective of tracking a user through a grocery store or dwell time or things like that. Well, now we've converted it to different spaces, but it's still, again, a great tool, great visibility. And like Bill said, it actually gives us the opportunity, or even the user, to make decisions, or maybe find that classroom that they're having trouble finding. So, or even, hate to bring up negativity, but before COVID-19, it was the active shooter drills and where are all the children located at. So with these tools, we can cover all of that. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. So here's a different view by product. So I'll let you guys jump into this one.
So there's really, the product set is really simple. First of all, you have access points, wireless access points. And in order to be competitive in the wireless access point business, you need really good coverage. You need strong radio signals. You need flexibility. So all of those are kind of check boxes. They'd be on any RFP, and I would hope most vendors could check all those boxes. We add Bluetooth in as well, and it's you're able to virtualize that. But where the real fun really begins with the Juniper solution is when you look at some of the value-added software that we can provide. So first of all, just simple Wi-Fi assurance. That's running your network. That's collecting analytics. That's doing an automatic packet capture behind the scenes, even if an error is detected. That's generating reports and so forth. And that uses artificial intelligence. So the type thing you can get or the things you can accomplish with that are you can fix problems before your users even know about them. And that's not even talking about COVID or, God forbid, active shooter or anything along those lines. That's talking about good network hygiene. Asset tracking, that's what you can use with the BLE interfaces or the cell phone interfaces to keep track of people or assets within an organization. Since the audience today is largely education oriented, this could be keeping track of some of the shared audiovisual tools, some of the shared PCs or servers. In healthcare, in a hospital, if a doctor needs an EKG machine, somebody can just look up on the map and say, oh, there's one around the next corner. Go grab that. User engagement, another option. That's what Sam was alluding to with regards to retail, which is where it's really interesting. PetSmart, for example, has a loyalty app that their customers keep on their phone. So when you walk into a PetSmart store, if you're a member of their loyalty club, they'll recognize that you're just joined the store. They'll send you a greeting. They'll say, we have your favorite brand of dog food on sale in aisle 3. Or if you're bringing in your pet for grooming, you could get a message saying, welcome, we'll be with you in 10 minutes in Grooming Bay Charlie, or whatever they use. And then finally, the most fun is Marvis, the network assistant. You may recognize the name from unnamed superhero. We took a little bit of liberties there. Instead of Jarvis, it became Marvis. But we actually communicate with Marvis where we ask a question. It's not voice activated yet, it's through a keyboard. But the question could be, how are things going in the Sacramento office? And the answer that you might get back is 38 users are connected. However, we have noticed some delays in DHCP responses. Or we could say, why can't Sam connect to the Denver servers? And Marvis would look at Sam, he'd look at the Denver servers, and he'd say Sam needs to update the antivirus software on his workstation. That sounds like it has very little to do with Wi-Fi. We definitely monitor Wi-Fi and can tune the network along those lines as well. But we're looking at this more from a network point of view. So that's your network assistant. And then moving over to the right-hand side, Premium Analytics. That's been the main point of discussion today. Once again, no additional hardware necessary. It's just a very simple subscription that gives you access to the user journey, the proximity tracing, and also the 90-day history as well. So I think I kind of ran off with my mouth on all that. Anything to add? And I apologize for taking too much time there, Sam.
Nope, that's wonderful. Again, if anybody in the audience has questions, please keep them coming. But Keegan, did you have anything to add for this section?
No, I think Bill covered it really well.
Awesome. Okay, can we go to the next slide? So this particular slide, and I know we've brought it up a number of times, but it's a question that we get asked quite a bit. So we just really wanted to continue to reiterate the care and the concern from a data privacy and a trust perspective. And this is a bunch of words here, but you can see we've highlighted kind of some of the more important pieces of it. So this is just something that we want to make sure that schools or any customer or any partner out there, understands that no personal health information is actually collected or stored. The identification of individuals is protected. In these times, we dedicated a whole slide to it because it's an important topic. So is there any particular questions out there around data privacy or trust or how that's done? I don't know. We'll see if anybody pops in the chat box. Did you want to add anything specific to that section, Bill?
No, other than that keeps our lawyers in business apparently through the pandemic as well. But I would say one thing that Juniper does, and Securematics as well as has also implemented this, is we do have a waiver that guests sign when they come into our offices. So our offices are still at very limited capacity, but every now and then we do need a vendor or even a customer to join us in a lab to test out something new. And we do ask them to sign a waiver saying they know that we're tracking their lanyard, although not necessarily by name or anything else. And they agree they give permission to do that.
Interesting.
And as the engineer, that's as much as I can talk about with legalese stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, next slide.
We did have one more question come in.
Oh, good.
If you are monitoring contact between people, how is this protected exactly?
Meaning that, the data being protected. You get it on the report, and you get it with pseudonyms such as Samsung 19 was in the same let's just go with let's say Samsung 19 has self-identified to the organization that they had a positive COVID-19 test. What you would then get is you'd be able to do proximity tracing of everyone that particular user came in contact with, but it's all going to be by those same types of pseudonyms. So it's going to be up to your organization's, typically health and safety department, maybe HR department, to translate those into whom we need to notify to get tested or to stay home for a week or whatever the case may be. Juniper, Securematics, we'll never know who those people are.
Yep, and to add on to that, so even the contact IO lanyards, for example, these show up as just a number. And then the actual, tying that number back to an individual can be done for example, like Bill mentioned, in an HR system. So basically just HR would be able to connect the dots, so to speak. IT wouldn't know who those folks were. They would just see the numbers.
Okay, thanks. No more questions.
Okay. Why partner with Juniper MIST? Well, I have to let you handle that one, Bill, because you're our resident Juniper representative today.
Yeah, very poor form on my part. I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning. I'm Bill Kine. I'm an SE with Juniper, based down in Orange County, and I actually work very closely with Securematics as well. So just some comments here about what we can bring to the party with regards to an overall Wi-Fi solution, or actually a combined wireless and wired solution. And this is deviating a bit from the proximity tracing, because that's just one item at the bottom of the list there. But first of all, everything is cloud first. So there are somebody asked a question if there's anything else to buy on-prem. And I really missed that, because it could have been a great softball for me to advertise that there are no controllers involved with any kind of Juniper Wi-Fi. Instead, it's all cloud-based. And in fact, it's all microservices in the cloud. So I've heard our sales reps say that the scalability is infinite. As an engineer, that doesn't sit well with me. I just always have to question that. We have not found any limits to scalability, because we use microservices, so we can spin up more containers whenever we need them. So for example, Walmart deploys basically hundreds of Juniper APs every single night. And each one of those requires services in the cloud for configuration and management. And again, they're spun up like that. BLE, we've talked about that, Bluetooth Low Energy, with regards to how it can be used for asset tracking, people tracking, and how it's passive as well. Wi-Fi and wired connectivity connected. Yes, we integrate that all into the same network with the same management paradigm, with the same reporting paradigm. And finally, we love talking about artificial intelligence. So all other vendors are saying the word AI probably to you multiple times a day. I would recommend looking under the hood whenever you hear that, to say, what are you really doing? So with us, what we're doing, I talked about Marvis, the virtual assistant, but we're also using a continuously learning algorithm, such that if we start seeing packet fragments, well, the most common reason for packet fragments on a network, two most common reason, one would be either a configuration error with regards to packet size, or two, that's also very indicative of a faulty cable or a loose connection. So if we start seeing a lot of packet fragments above and beyond a reasonable threshold, we could recommend that the user go check the cable in port 19, or we could in fact reconfigure. Or if we didn't know what the main cause for errors are, we can look back in history where we've seen errors like that before, and we've seen what's resolved those problems. Or, yeah, this keeps going on and on, I apologize. Or we could actually crawl the internet, saying we're seeing this weird error where the bits are flipped on these packets. What causes that for other networks and other vendors? And all that can be applied in order to either automatically fix the issue, or to notify somebody to go fix the issue. So those are things that we do a little differently in Juniper, and those are things that we'd love to talk to you guys about in your own, with regards to your own requirements for connectivity, as well as reporting, as well as proximity tracing.
Excellent, thank you, Bill.
And Sam, hey, Sam,
yep.
If I could just add on to that, to what Bill said.
Please.
Why Securematics and Juniper MIST? We live and breathe Juniper MIST. We are the second largest distributor in the world of Juniper. All of our SEs and sales team have been trained on Juniper, or certified and trained on Juniper MIST. We are we pride ourselves in being a high-touch, value-added distributor, which hopefully this FastTRAC exemplifies. We pride ourselves on doing things like answering the phone, being highly responsive, dealing with issues which invariably come up and resolving them quickly, and streamlining communication. Being let's say one throat to choke or whatever you want to call it, but not bouncing partners around. And so we pride ourselves on being innovative, and hopefully the partners out there that work with us would back us up on that. So.
Excellent, thanks, Mitch. And okay, next slide. And somebody's dog is talking to us. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick little example of, the check boxes and why Juniper MIST. And as you can see, we've got all of these things that we've discussed: the live view, BLE assets, mobile applications, Wi-Fi, clients by zone, hottest zones, 38-day analytics, locate users via Wi-Fi, the user journey, and then we spent quite a bit of time on proximity tracing. And we have a few competitors up here, but we really want to focus on Juniper MIST and everything that's covered there. So we won't spend too much time on that slide, but I thought it was a neat slide. So next slide. Okay, so as we discussed at the very beginning of this discussion, there really is two components, and we've spent quite a bit of time drilling down on the technology solutions for your safe office or your COVID-19 response. But here's just an example of some of the non-technology solutions. And again, as mentioned earlier, you still need to consider signage and placards, hand cleaners and touchless devices, touchless hand cleaners, touchless paper towel dispensers, things of this nature, and then personal protective equipment such as masks or face masks or various things like that. And then again, we touched on physical layout, again, with the idea that we now understand where we have congestion areas. We can do some things about it. We can actually adjust our physical layout. We can, change traffic flows. We can actually make the space less crowded and address some of those concerns. And then I know we spent quite a bit of time on privacy data, HIPAA, and regulatory compliance. And this one, it's interesting because it's a moving target. And the guidance that comes down from CDC or OSHA changes fairly regularly. When we get down to state and city local ordinances, things of this nature, it could be very different from one state to one city. And again, it changes. So what we can do and what we've been doing is you really have to look at all of these factors and then decide, how you want to address them based on all of these factors, not just, a broad brush, so to speak. So we can go to the next slide. So here's where we can help. And again, the great thing about our end-to-end solution for our COVID response is it's very modular. So not only is it modular from a technology perspective, but we want to make sure that anything that you as a partner don't have, we can provide it for you. So as you can kind of look at some of the professional services that we can help you with, starting off from the beginning, evaluating a customer's current state. What have you done? What things do you need to consider from a regulatory perspective? What do you want to consider from an organizational perspective? And then we can put together a modularized, fit and solution for that particular customer. Second item is again, identification of remaining requirements. And that's, almost everybody's or every organization has implemented something. It may be partial, it may be very manual, and we can enhance some of those manual processes, or if the organization deems that those are meeting what they want or meeting their requirements, we can fill in the other areas where they're not addressing all of these particular items. And then, we're looking at this, basically creating a plan. And in this scenario, we're calling this a biosecurity program. And just like your cybersecurity program or any other HR manual, it's a plan. And the plan is, again, taking everything into consideration: where you live, what you're trying to protect. Is it a school? Is it an organization? And creating that custom plan to you so that you can say, hey, I've done my due diligence. We follow the plan, and away you move, away you go. And you can see the other item, providing regulatory compliance assessments. This is really kind of a deep dive into what I alluded to earlier, is what specifically is affecting your organization. So we'll start from that local ordinance and move all the way up to the CDC. And then finally, again, designing and implementing that exact solution for your needs. And finally, providing you support along with monitoring and alerting. So that's really from beginning to end. And again, keep in mind, if you've got these skill sets on hand to do any or all of these, that's perfectly okay. We just wanted to make sure you were aware that you can reach out to myself if you want to get any of these services completed. Go ahead and next slide, please. So again, this is session 3 that we just completed, and we're going to continue working down these FastTRAC sessions. So the next one you can see is going to be focused specifically on human resources and regulatory compliance. So we'll try to make it exciting so folks don't fall asleep. So bring your coffee if you need to, but hopefully we'll make it somewhat entertaining. And then, but that's really going to be drilled down from what needs to be accomplished from a human resources perspective, and just maybe not specific regulatory compliance, but the bigger issues. And then the future session after that is, everybody knows what IoT is, and maybe not a lot of folks have heard of IOB. New 3-letter acronym. It's actually not that new. It's a couple years old. But what it is it's a subset of Internet of Things, and it really gets into all of these topics that we've been talking about. How do you take Internet of Things and make things better for your customers, for, in this case, maybe children or teachers? And it's really leveraging technology to do some of these things like wayfinding, and the whole idea around this is improving company culture, improving customer experience, and again, employee retention. You actually care about some of these safety issues, and you as an organization are being proactive. So that's what that one's going to cover. And then, as Keegan had discussed earlier, item number 3, Bluetooth low energy options. We'll do a deep dive into specific BLE sensors. And again, we very lightly touched on using Juniper Premium Analytics and then creating third-party applications. So that's what that particular session will cover, extending Juniper MIST, and then finally ending for a deep dive on health screening technologies. So that was a lot. I know we've got about 15 minutes left, so let's go to the next one. I think we're close to just open it up to questions. Yep, we are. So again, just real quick, Sam Fadala, I'm from 4R Safety. If you have any specific questions about any piece of this, feel free to email myself or Mitch Wade. But at this point, I wanted to leave some time for questions. So Bailey, do we have any questions out there?
None yet, but I will let you know if any comes through.
Let me ask a question of maybe Bill. Bill, I know you touched on some of the use cases or the, can you talk about just real quickly, high level, some case studies or use case of where MIST is being utilized, and both education and retail and multiple verticals, let's say.
Absolutely. So the sweet spot, the initial sweet spots for MIST were really 3 verticals, and that's really grown beyond that. But the first 3 that we saw a lot of success in were retail, and that's kind of the example I gave earlier with PetSmart and the loyalty app. You know what? When you can talk about things like that, you're not talking about the RF quality of the APs or how many ports are in a switch. You're actually talking to them about how to improve their business. And that's why it was really appealing for retail organizations to learn about some of the things they can do to better serve their customers. The second one that we've seen a lot of traction in has been higher ed. And I think COVID has helped drive some of that, because while there were empty schools, there was a great opportunity to upgrade. What they saw when they upgraded to the Juniper solution is kind of like what I had indicated with artificial intelligence before, but they saw a dramatic drop in the number of help desk tickets. And that's because the network was monitoring itself and the network was able to fix its own problems. Higher ed also really only makes money, which I know is probably not the best way to describe the schools, but they need students in seats in order to be able to pay their professors and pay for the grounds and everything else. So they've been very interested in proximity tracing as a way to safely get students back onto the campus. And some are doing remote learning still, but will use us when they do reopen the doors. Others are doing hybrids of online plus in-person plus labs, and they're able to take advantage of all of the proximity tracing features. Then the third one that's really been a good market for us has been healthcare itself. We started our first healthcare client or customer was a VA hospital in Orlando, and they in fact did implement where's the EKG example that I gave you, but also the VA hospital in Orlando apparently is a massive complex. So if you're bringing in your elderly relatives for an X-ray, good luck finding the X-ray lab, but you can use wayfinding with your phone, where you type in that you want to go to the X-ray lab, and then Bluetooth sensors identify where you're at, and then they give you a path to get there as well. Healthcare has been very critical on everybody's mind lately. Healthcare has been running very reactively to the requirements of the current pandemic. But where they can, in fact, add value and use automation, they have a tool set to do that within the Juniper MIST solution. So those were the first 3. Love to talk to anybody about their own applications and how this might be applicable as well.
Cool. Thanks, Bill. That's great. I just have a question, Sam, for you, just for the audience. I know that I believe most of the partners on the session here know pricing for Juniper MIST and understand that the BLE lanyards and these are not that pricey. But can you just give a range of what the kiosk solutions might be?
Sure, no problem. So the 2 examples that I showed earlier, at least MSRP, there's a standard version and a pro version, and the standard version is $1,800 and the pro version is $2,400.
Okay.
So they're not terribly expensive.
And are they, do you know of, I believe that they've got some deployed and some schools are currently around the US, right?
That's correct. There's actually a couple of fairly large deployments. In fact, I think I'll have to go back and look specifically, but there are some case studies that we can reference.
Yep.
Oh, and a side note on the kiosk, though, there is a subscription associated with that as well.
Yeah.
So just to make sure people are aware of that, and I believe that's $100 a month. So I'm sorry, yeah, I think that's correct, but I'll verify just in case. So just keep that in mind. It's $100 a month.
Okay. Bailey, are there any questions beyond what I've asked?
No more questions.
Well, look, let me just then say thank you to everybody for attending today. We will be sending out follow-ups with information. There's a link that you see there for kind of a one-page PDF that you could access. We also have, we'll be sending out a recording of this session and slides. And we hope you came away with the goal that we set out, which was to hopefully that you got a lot out of this, that you want to learn more, you want to attend another session, and hopefully that you maybe have a deeper dive discovery call with us. So again, thank you very, very much for all your time and attending. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.